Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos put a lot of work into getting themselves TV ready, and it starts with their respective nighttime routines. The couple opened up about the unique ways they get ready for bed on the Wednesday, February 11th episode of Live with Kelly and Mark. During their start-of-show discussion, Ripa said she sleeps in a T-Rex position, which causes pain in her arms and hands. Executive producer Michael Gelman shared a potential solution to her pain, suggesting she wrap towels around her arms and secure them with an elastic band to prevent them from bending toward her chest. Though Ripa didn't seem opposed to the idea, she joked, "I don't know how much more I can subject Mark to." She then showed off several of her nighttime products, including a jelly face mask. "I sleep in it, and it melts into your skin. And in the morning, I peel it off, and it's like a miracle. I look just like this," she explained. Ripa went on to put in her retainers and put on her pair of glasses. "And then I say to Mark, 'So, what do you want to watch tonight?'" she joked. As Consuelos helped her tie a towel around one of her arms, she added, "How much more is Mark supposed to tolerate?" Consuelos, for his part, said he uses nasal dilators and mouth tape every night, pretending to lean in and kiss her husband. Ripa said, "And then we go, 'Good night, honey.'" While the couple have developed multi-step nighttime routines over the years, Ripa told audience members that didn't always used to be the case. "Let me tell you something, because I see there's young people here. I see young people here. We used to be hot and sexy," she quipped, retainers still in her mouth. "We didn't know it at the time. We had no idea that we were cute in any way. We didn't used to have to take vitamins." Refusing Consuelo's request to pop out her retainer, Ripa continued, "I didn't used to wear a retainer. I didn't need glasses. I didn't put on hormone cream. I didn't even talk about the hormone cream because the whole rest of me is slippery, too. Very slippery. I'm a very slippery person. I go into bed. I look nuts for the love of you people." Ripa and Consuelos met as co-stars on All My Children in 1995 and tied the knot 1 year later. They went on to welcome 3 kids, Michael, Lola, and Joaquin, and have been co-hosting Live Together since 2023. The couple are no strangers to poking fun at themselves on TV. Earlier this month, Consuelos shared a photo of himself with a missing tooth while recounting how his temporary tooth implant popped out during a flight. "As we're taking off, it pops out," he said on the show's February 4th episode of flying to Canada to film an episode of Riverdale. "Now, I gotta be on this flight for the next 5.5 hours, and I gotta make it through without swallowing it and keeping it up there. And I luckily had my flipper with me, but I didn't tell anybody. I was like, I have just 1 day of work, a few scenes." Before getting the permanent implant inserted upon returning home, he decided to go toothless for a double date with Ripa and their friends. "It was a bit of freedom to go out in New York City with no tooth," he said while showing off his funny photo. They called it lights out on the studio floor, the 2 minutes between the closing credits and the moment the city outside reclaimed its nights. For the audience, it was the final wink on a long day of celebrity banter and tidy punchlines. For Kelly and Mark, it was the private, improvised ritual where the cameras were off and whatever remained of their day found its way into the small, luminous world of their bedroom. The ritual had grown elaborate over the years, not because they wanted it to, but because life had quietly rearranged its pieces, 3 children aligning themselves into lives of their own, schedules that bent like the metropolitan skyline, and the gentle betrayals of time, a new creak here, a tiredness that arrived earlier in the evening. Once upon a time, they had been young and incandescent, the sort of couple who fell asleep mid-kiss and woke up in the same tangle. Now their nights were a careful choreography of comfort, ridiculousness, and small, undramatic intimacy. Kelly, who had always been the showy one in public and the secretly tender one at home, was a creature of habits. She had a sleeping position that had earned its own myth, the T-Rex. Arms short and bent, wrists tucked close to chest, elbows flapping like the arms of the prehistoric kingdom. It made walking into the bedroom resemble stepping into a museum diorama. Sometimes her arms slept like wings, sometimes they slept like anchors, but they never slept in a way that treated her hands kindly. She would wake up with pins and needles and a theatrical groan, and Mark would be there to patch the moment with an improvised solution. One Wednesday in February, after a show that had been warm and light and full of laughter, Kelly described her nocturnal quirks to the production team in the green room. There was a chorus of empathetic laughter when she explained how her arms went limp into that T-Rex shape and the ensuing numbness that made her wake up like she had shaken hands with sleepy electrician. Michael, the executive producer, offered what he called a science hack: roll up towels around the arms, secure them with an elastic band to prevent them from bending toward the chest. Kelly balanced mock horror with practical curiosity. "I don't know how much more I can subject Mark to," she said, and the joke was both refusal and invitation. Mark, who had learned early in their relationship that there are two kinds of theatricality, on stage and off, was never opposed to caprice. He would wrap the towels, tie the elastic, and straighten the way of the world, and in doing so, gave Kelly a little mercy that felt like a promissory note against the coming morning's stiffness. The nighttime routine was not just about towels. It was an accretion of care, like sediment that built a shoreline, face masks in jars with names that suggested science fiction and marine life, a shelf of creams with earnest promises, and one shelf lower, something that could be mistaken for art supplies, retainers in soft plastic cases, a pair of reading glasses that had graduated from chic to functional, nasal dilators like tiny translucent arches of a bridge, and rolls of medical tape marked with a sort of non-dramatic seriousness that meant business. In the small kingdom of their bathroom, each object had a role. Kelly treated these products like a private set of tools. She loved a jelly face mask, the kind that slid like summer onto skin and then peeled away like a second, more glamorous epidermis in the morning. "I sleep in it," she'd say, "and it melts into your skin. In the morning, I peel it off, and it's like a miracle." She would wear the mask, put in her retainer, and flop into the T-Rex position with a battle flag of her small regimens waving beside her. Mark, for his part, was a man of simpler but no less precise tools. He believed in nasal dilators and mouth tape, the latter to keep a soft, stubborn mouth from becoming a wind tunnel. The tape made him sound a little like a sleeping astronaut in the quiet hours, and Kelly would sometimes pretend to lean in and kiss him, an exaggerated peck that ended with them pulling back so they could both laugh at the absurd diplomacy of their health choices. "Good night, honey," they would say in unison, a ritual phrase that closed the day's performance and opened the private act of two people who had been a team across decades. The phrase had been tested in hospital corridors, in hotel rooms during filming, and in the messy trenches of parenting. It had stood up. Their marriage had grown in the fluorescent, chimerical world of television, where makeup mirrors are large enough to seat a family, and the light has a way of inventing confidence. They met on a set where dramatic monologues were written like confessions and intimate gestures were cataloged on cue cards. They married a year later, and then learned how to live in between scenes. The TV life kept sending them into public rooms where laughter and polish mattered. At home, their rituals could be raw and comic. Sometimes, the rituals produced accidents that the couple would later tell like jokes. There was the time Mark's temporary tooth implant popped loose as a plane took off. He retold the incident with the toothless grin of a man who had discovered an odd freedom in brief dental anonymity. Another time, a retainer almost disappeared in the chaos of a hotel laundry bin. On a different trip, a tub of jelly mask spilled into a suitcase and seeped into the fabric as if claiming it for its own. These small calamities became stories, retold with theatrical timing and the softening weight of shared incredulity. They had a particular Valentine's routine, a soft counterpoint to their public declarations. Mark would stand at the foot of the bed, balancing the ordinary with the ceremonial, a glass of water, a small white box of pills she took for hormones, Because time had started its own council and asked to be heard, a book she had been reading in two-page bursts between set changes, and one random, delightful snack, a jar of salted licorice or a package of artisanal cookies, things meant to be shared. Sometimes he would deliver these items with mock solemnity,